Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech. We're live on Twitch. The camera framing, it's a little weird today there. That makes it 1,000% better because you can see the fake plant behind me. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I wanted to talk a bit more about the last Twitch stream I did when we calculated basically how much money I had spent on Apple, because for one, I'll give credit where credit is due. It was partially my wife's idea. She didn't suggest I make a video on it, but we were talking about it one day, and she was like, I wonder how much you have spent on Apple products in its entirety. And I was like, probably I'd say 20 or 25,000. She was like, no way, it's got to be over 30. And we were going back and forth, and I was like, well, this is an interesting subject because this is a question that's come up in Twitch streams and YouTube streams before. I've had that come up, like, Drew, how much have you spent on Apple in total, put everything together, how much money has gone directly out of my bank account to Apple? And during that process of the last Twitch stream, we did a whole breakdown of going into each purchase, going from the very beginning. And there were a lot of people bringing up products that I was like, I'm not going to list anything that I return. Because to me, that doesn't really count as a purchase because I get a full refund on all my returns. Thanks to Apple allowing for return policies like that. And I hope people also understand I am by far not the only channel that does this. Plenty of news agencies and content creators out there will buy Apple products for the sake of reviewing them and then decide, okay, I don't want to keep it, but I got my coverage out of it. I'm going to return it now. And a lot of people were upset by that. I wouldn't say most. The general response to the video was fine. I'm not trying to create backlash that isn't really there, but there were a lot of comments that I thought I wanted to address. Essentially, basically all of them surrounding the idea of when you are buying products and returning them after you review them, that is a burden to Apple. That's hard on Apple. That means they lose money on you. And because I am a burden on Apple, because I am harming their profit margins by buying products and returning them, that means that they have to charge more for their products. And that's why, basically, because I buy and return things, that's why Apple products have gotten more expensive. I personally disagree with these statements, mainly because I think they're being too surface level. I think if perhaps you weren't making videos about the products that you were buying and you weren't providing opinions on them and giving feedback on them, maybe you could make that argument, which I'm sure exists. And I know that there are certain companies and there are certain brands that do genuinely blacklist you in a sense that if you return too many items, they start to change your return policy, which, by the way, I think is perfectly fair. I have nothing against that. I think I've seen it happen with Amazon and Best Buy. There were a few different YouTubers, and I think with me it happened with Amazon many years ago. This was back in 2016 or so. But basically, if you buy a bunch of products from a certain company and you keep returning them and returning them and returning them, and they notice how many returns are going on your line, your account, then they can decide, hey, you know what? We think you're kind of abusing the return policy and its intended purpose. So we're going to decide you can't have a return policy for this amount of time or permanently. If we've decided you've returned far too many things, we're just going to turn off the return policy for you. If a company wants to do that and decides that, hey, you're abusing this, I am perfectly fine with that. I would not, it's their money, it's their policy. And if they have a rule that says you can't return X amount of items because that's going to cost us too many restocking fees and that kind of thing, that's perfectly fair. And the reason I say that is because, if I was in their shoes, I would probably feel the same way. If someone had been spending thousands and thousands of dollars and not actually keeping any of those items, and they keep returning them and playing with them and sending them back, then I think if it's the company's decision to say, we don't think you should be able to do that, leave it up to the company. I'm kind of for companies' rights to a certain extent. There are certain things where a company goes too far, but I would say for the most part, if they are not okay with you doing that, that's up to them, and you should accept that. That's their product. That's their policy. The reason I bring that up, though, is because I have been doing this with Apple. I have been buying a lot of Apple products and returning them, so I can review them for you guys without having to shell out all the money that it would actually cost I can guarantee you the price point of how much money I've spent on Apple would be astronomically higher if I had to keep every product I reviewed for the channel. But Apple has never brought that up to me. I've never gotten a warning. I've never gotten a notice from Apple saying, hey, we think you're returning too many items. We don't want to let you do this anymore. And I want you guys to know on the record, I'll say this publicly because I want it to be well known out there, that if Apple did ask me to stop doing this, if they reached out to me, someone from PR or Tim Cook himself or Craig Federighi, I don't care who it is, if someone from Apple reached out and said, hey, we don't want you to keep buying products that you intentionally are going to, for a fact going into it, you're going to return them and you're only getting them for the sake of making a video on them. If they reached out and said, don't do this anymore, I would agree. Even if I didn't have a contract with them or anything, I'm not going to sign an NDA. If they just reached out humbly and said, hey, please stop doing that on behalf of Apple, that's frustrating and it's abusing our return policy, I'd be like, okay, I'll stop. I won't do it anymore. But the truth is, and the reason I partially don't think they're against this, and the reason that someone like me has been able to buy and return probably 10 to 15 different fairly expensive Apple products by now, is because they know that, for one, the return policy is beneficial to the average consumer because they like knowing that if they buy something, they have the option to send it back if they end up not liking it. That provides an extra level of safety for the consumer. That makes them feel comfortable. So they like keeping it around for everyday people. But for content creators like me, they know that I'm going to talk about my experience with the product for free. They don't have to send me any money. I would argue, honestly, that a lot of the YouTubers that are on Tim Cook's nice list, you know who I'm talking about, the people who get products early, whether it be Rene Ritchie, Marquez, John Morrison, iJustine, you know the people, your average consumer, all these people that get stuff sent to them from Apple. I am not entirely sure because I've not seen anyone ask them this, but I don't believe they pay for those items that Apple sends them. And some of them, I believe they do have to return. Other items Apple sends, they get to keep. I would argue that is a larger burden to Apple because they have to front that money to get it in front of a content creator. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a smart business move because, these content creators have large audiences. They have fan bases that are going to watch all their videos. So if they spend all the money on creating those products and then shipping it to a YouTuber and say, here, you keep this, you use it, and you tell people your experience about it, they know that they're going to get a lot of free publicity from a well-respected, well-known creator. And that is beneficial to them because a lot of people are going to watch MKBHD's video, or a lot of people are going to watch Rene Ritchie's video, like what they see, and buy it. So it is a benefit to them to lose out on that money and not sell these things, even though Marquez has money, Rene Ritchie has money. They could easily buy all this stuff themselves, but Apple decides to send it to them because they know they're going to get a bunch of publicity on that. Whereas someone like me, who may not have as big an audience as those people, does review and recommend sometimes, not all the time. I don't recommend all Apple products, but I share people with my experience, and I provide a lot of publicity to this hardware that Apple has to spend literally no money on. They get a little Apple sheep for free that posts videos every day talking about Apple products he likes. And sure, sometimes it goes the other way. Occasionally, I make videos about Apple products I don't like, and videos that where I'm like, I don't think this is worth it. I don't think you should get this. But you'll notice that most of the time I'm complaining, I'm typically suggesting that you buy some other Apple product. It's very rarely go buy Android, go buy Samsung. It's never like, don't buy the new iMac, you should go buy a PC instead. It's mostly, I don't like the new iMac because the MacBook Air is so much better, or the Mac Mini is so much better value. So it's never like, for the most part at least, it's not so much pushing customers in the direction of alternatives from third parties. It's usually still on the same page of Apple is the best, I prefer Apple, I love the Apple ecosystem. And my goodness, I can't even count how many super chats or how many messages or comments I've seen of people that used to not be very integrated into the Apple ecosystem, or used to not really have that many Apple products at all, but are now instead buying into the Apple ecosystem because they watch my videos, because they've seen my experiences and seen how happy I am with my products that I buy, and they're like, wow, Drew seems really happy and his arguments or his logic makes sense. I want that for myself. So just being a free, basically, Apple advertisement has likely made Apple far much more money than I've costed them simply from buying items and returning them. The number of people I've sold on Apple, a lot of people don't notice this or didn't know this because I rarely bring it up, but I was the first person pretty much in my entire family to get an iPhone. Before that, everybody just had flip phones, and my parents and my sisters, they all looked at iPhones as just kind of being too expensive and kind of unnecessary for day-to-day stuff. But when I first got my iPhone 5, I showed it to my sister and my parents, and I was showing how great the camera was and how great the software was and all these great features I had on my phone. And very shortly after I got my first iPhone, everybody else really, really wanted to get one themselves. Same with the iPads. When I first got the iPad Air, everyone else in my family started going, oh, that's kind of nice. That's kind of cool. I think I want to get an iPad myself. Pretty soon, now my sister has a Mac, an iPhone, an Apple Watch. She had an iPad for a time. I don't know if she still has it, but my parents both have iPads. My parents both have MacBooks. And of course, later generation iPhones. Now my mom has the iPhone 10. My dad has the 11 Pro Max. They've all kind of ingrained themselves into the ecosystem based on a lot of my recommendation, a lot of people seeing what I was happy with and some of the cool features I was discovering. So basically, the case I'm trying to make is I have made Apple far more money than I have costed them. Every consumer is going to cost Apple money. You just using a phone and enjoying software updates, that's going to be somewhat of a burden to Apple because they had to develop software and they're giving it to you for free. So there's a bit of a cost there. That's why they have profit margins, right? That's why they sell iPhones for more than they cost to make, is because they know that having a customer is going to cost them money. Customer support that's free, Apple stores that you can walk into and get help with that doesn't cost you anything. That's being paid for through the profit margins of their hardware. So there's all kinds of money they make directly from being a $2 trillion company. And the process of buying a new Apple product and sending it back and returning it, basically that once you send that item back, it's either going to go into certified refurbished, in which Apple will sell it again and get most of their money back, maybe not entirely back, but most of it back. Or it's going to be used as a service device where they give it to people who are experiencing technical difficulties and need a replacement covered under Apple Care. They'll give them a barely used Apple product that's sent back. So the amount of money they lose by you buying something and sending it back is so insignificant compared to how much money I think word of mouth and free publicity makes them, just based on watching someone's review. That's especially not someone who has direct ties with Apple. If you're watching someone who has signed an NDA with Apple and worked directly with them and is now talking about why their Apple product is great, it's probably a slightly different perspective from someone who has not signed a contract, someone who can say anything they want about the product, and now they're recommending it and saying, I've loved this experience, I think this is a great product, and I think you will too, you should buy it. In my opinion, that sends a bigger message that spreads wider across the globe. So I don't think I'm a burden to Apple, despite what a lot of the comments were on my how much money I've spent video. I think Apple has benefited directly from my videos and from the word of mouth in my personal life. Like my wife was not using an iPhone when I first met her, by the way. She was using a cheap little Android and an Android tablet. I think she had a dumb flip phone actually at first, but hanging out with me, getting to know me better, she wanted to spend more on Apple products and get more into the ecosystem, and that's where she is today. Let's see. Many Dinosaur says, to be honest, I don't think I've ever returned an Apple product. It's the type of thing you know you're going to like and use for a few years before it's even announced. Oh yeah, I'm like that with a lot of products, but I guess I'm referring more to content creators buying things to review that they know they're going to return. I don't think that's a bad thing. That's the statement I'm starting the stream off with. Matt Apple, thank you for the bit, says, was that AirTag hide and seek in the unboxing video for my idea? Really great, by the way. No, I'd seen a few other YouTubers do it. It's not an entirely original idea. I think everybody who got the AirTags early was basically doing the same thing. But it's a fun game. It's a cool demo, especially when you first get the product. So, yeah, that's a good idea. Ben Fine 78, thank you for the 100 bits. He says, I haven't returned like you, but I have canceled over $20,000 worth of orders from Apple. They haven't done anything to me, and you are actually promoting them. You're fine. I think so. I think there are people who probably do abuse the return policy, but by probably not providing much insight, like buying things and returning them, and you're not really covering their experience of the product, and you're not really telling other people about it, But my point is, Apple, they don't lose a bunch of money off of the return policy thing. Like if they did, they could change it very easily. Like, trust me very, very clearly, if Apple wanted to adjust their return policy, it would not be hard at all. It would be very, very simple for them to say, okay, if you've returned more than 5 items within a 6-month window, you don't get the 14-day return policy, which means everything you buy, you have to keep. They legally could very easily do that. They could directly apply that to any customer they wanted. Other brands do this. I've seen Best Buy do it. I've seen Amazon do it. And the fact that Apple doesn't is likely because they make enough money and they repurpose the devices that get sent back. And it's not like if you return an Apple product, they just throw it directly in the trash. It's not like that product goes completely to waste. It just goes either into the service department or it goes to certified refurbished, where someone can buy an Apple product for cheaper. So if anything, I would argue that the buying and returning thing actually makes products cheaper for consumers. It does hurt Apple, but it probably does not hurt the customers. No, I never do chargebacks. If you charge back your card, they will ban you. I don't doubt that at all. I've never done a chargeback on anything, but I appreciate the bits. Thank you. Scott says, it's not like you're returning everything you buy either. They probably have an in-house calculation and only cut you off if you're returning a certain percentage more than you're keeping. They might do that. I don't know. I haven't met anybody that's said they've returned so many that Apple has cut them off. In the UK, under consumer law, Apple and other companies have to offer 14-day return. I think it's a good thing. Like, return policies, whether you're a content creator or not, it makes sense that if you're spending this kind of money on products, you know that you have the option to return it if you buy it in the first few days, you end up not liking it. I think that's, consumer-wise, whether you're in the UK or not, I think that's a good thing to have for people, because there's a lot of times, especially in the tech world, where companies may advertise things to be a certain way. I bring it up a lot with 5G. Think about how many people probably saw those ads thinking that if I have a 5G icon in the top of my phone, I'm going to get 3 gigabits per second down or 4 gigabits per second down. If you were an average consumer and you didn't, if you didn't go a lot back in the tech community and were well aware how crappy 5G was, and you were just watching advertisements directly from the company, you would probably think, based on what Apple said and what advertisements are saying, that, oh, sweet, I'm going to get gigabit per second as long as I have 5G in my area, and I'm pretty sure I do. And that's not true at all. The ideal conditions are basically impossible conditions. I've never once seen anyone with ultra wideband or anything on the iPhone 12 get downloads as high as they claim they would be in the keynote or in the Verizon commercials or whatever. I've never seen that. So because of marketing tactics like that, or people making devices look a certain way or perform a certain way, and you think they're definitely going to be like that in reality, if you buy that product and you see the little 5G icon, you go, okay, great, I got 5G. And then you do a speed test and it's nowhere near what they were saying in the ads. You should be able to say, like, okay, well, I just got the product. I've been using it for a few days. The more I've thought about it, the more I realize this isn't really worth it to me. I would like to return it and get a full refund. That's great. Yeah, like, I'm not against that going away at all. And even just if companies can afford it, which Apple has been keeping this return window around for many, many years now, I think they can comfortably afford it. They have clearly turned a profit. They're an insanely profitable company. They make gobs of money, so they can they can afford to keep this return policy around for people that even do buy products intending to return them, even do buy them knowing that they might not keep them. Well aware that you can buy an Apple product and just say like, okay, I'm not sure if I'll keep it. I'm just going to try it out. And if I don't like it, I'll send it back. I don't think if a company wants to offer that feature, it's a bad thing. If people want to try a product out for a week or two and then send it back, I think that's fair. I think that's fine. And clearly Apple has been doing this for so long that it hasn't hurt them. That's why I'm just like, I don't think it's a burden for tech reviewers that aren't on Tim Cook's nice list to buy a product, review it, give their feedback on it, tell you what they think about it, and then send it back. Because when they send it back, it's just going into the Apple Care department, or it's going into certified refurbished, where it's going to get used. Apple's still going to get their money's worth out of it. Exactly. Apple's always for long-term growth and user trust. That's what they would rather retain. And like I said, I'll stand by my word. If Apple asks me to stop doing it, I'll stop doing it. Like if they came forward with a statement said, "Hey, please don't buy products and plan to return them as you buy them anymore. Don't buy them and just review them and send them back." I'd be like, "Okay, I won't do that." But as long as they allow me to do it, I plan on still doing it. Thomas Grant says, "I've had a MacBook replaced because of a manufacturer problem, but never returned because I didn't like it." Well, that's fine for you. You can do that, but yeah, if there's a manufacturer problem, absolutely, that makes sense to get it replaced. I'm buying a tool you need it, using it, returning it when you don't need it anymore for a full refund. I don't think it's exactly the same. I mean, if I was buying a tool from Home Depot and then telling people how great the tool from Home Depot was and that it was fantastic and that everyone should buy it, that would probably be more similar. Or if I bought a product from Home Depot that I didn't think was very good and I showed you why it wasn't very good and told everyone why it's a bad product and why you shouldn't buy it and you should buy this other product and then returned it, I would consider it more similar. I don't think I'm a threat to Apple. I think I've probably indirectly made them probably tens of thousands of dollars just based on people watching my videos and buying. Like even the types of videos I've made about products that aren't Apple. You want to hear something crazy? I have made 2 videos. I'm not bringing this up because they're a sponsor or anything. I literally just bring them up because I use them. I have made 2 videos on Mint Mobile. 2. All right? And after I made the video, I developed a lot of people's interest in the brand because a lot of people obviously were curious if they should switch and they want to know my experience. And they reached out to me. Mint Mobile was like, "Thank you for the video. Would you like an official affiliate link that would allow you to directly make money off of people signing up for our service?" And I said, "I don't want money from you guys. I mainly am just fine with the standard referral program, which is no different from anybody else. Like anybody who signs up for Mint has a referral program. It's not any different from like a Tesla referral code. Different from an affiliate. That's when you're like working directly with the company and you have some type of special agreement that average consumers don't have." And I reached out to them and made sure. I was like, "Okay, how many referrals can I get? And, where can I share that code? Is it okay for the referral code to be in the description? Is that okay?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's all fine." I made sure. I've made 2 videos on this service and have raked in, I believe at this point, over 100 referrals. Like all of those people who signed up for Mint have more than likely spent around $180 or more than $200 on the service from 2 videos. Now compare that to what you guys, how many videos do you think I've made about Apple since the tech channel's birth? To imagine how many people have bought Apple products directly because of my recommendations that we don't get to account for because obviously Apple doesn't have a referral program or anything. But the amount of devices that I've directly helped sell by being free publicity from Apple and getting people hyped, talking about an event, having hype streams, getting a community built around the hardware Apple's going to announce, saying this new product's going to be so exciting. I can't wait to upgrade to this product. I can't wait to get this Apple device. I can't wait to get this Apple device. Bringing like-minded people together to get hyped about a product does so much wonders for Apple that they don't have to pay anything for. Um, if it's a question of ethics, I would argue it helps consumers more than it hurts Apple. I mean, hurting Apple is partially done by just being a consumer as a whole. It's free advertising. I don't think Apple would complain about that, but I'm saying, like, by you using an iPhone and continuing to use that iPhone and not upgrading it for many years and utilizing their software services that they're developing, that is technically hurting Apple. If you're looking everything as an on or off switch and there's no neutral, there's no just using their device or utilizing their service or utilizing their return policy, which exists, which they allow people to use. Same thing with iOS. If you're looking at it as this either hurts Apple or it doesn't hurt Apple, then you're either buying the latest Apple product maxed out, the most expensive possible product every time they announce it, or you're not doing that. That's that's essentially what you're dumbing it down to. And in my opinion, utilizing a service or utilizing a warranty that they offer is not hurting them. And if they ask you to stop, that's a different thing. But if they're not asking you to stop, I don't think it's hurting them. Otherwise, they would tell you to stop. S63 Tech says, I have a friend who isn't a YouTuber. He buys products all the time, tried them out, and returns most of them. I would say at least 80% of what he buys, he returns. I know people like that too. And again, I would argue that I have helped Apple probably a lot more than your friend has. But if Apple is comfortable with it, or you didn't say it was Apple, whatever he's buying from, if the brand is comfortable with that, I'm guessing it's not hurting them substantially. Which is why the warranty still exists. And like I said, other brands out there have programs in place that if you return a certain number of items, they will void your return policy for you, but not everybody else. And in my opinion, that's perfectly justified. They're allowed to do that. If they've decided that this whole return policy thing is costing them too much, then fine, change the policy. But if it's not, and they want to keep it, and people want to take advantage of it, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's unethical. I mean, try to dumb it down to a bit less than just a big corporation. You're hurting a $2 trillion company now. You know, it's like, for one, they can screw up customers too. It's not to act like Apple is 100% ethical either. Let's be honest here. They have a prioritization on profitability. They have to prioritize making sure people buy more stuff, and they can make and design products that are not built to last or not built to reuse older accessories and make you buy new ones because, yes, it directly helps them. And yes, that may hurt you, but they're a business. In the same way, I can make that argument of, like, this is my business. This is how I make a living. This is what I do for work. And if they allow a service or a warranty that might not be extremely profitable for them, but I can utilize for my own advantage, and they're comfortable with it, then that's fine. Same way I'm fine with Apple coming up with a new product that doesn't work with your old accessory, so you got to buy a new one. Okay, that's their choice. Best Buy flags your account if you return too many things. Don't know the details. Not sure how they would do this if you have a Best Buy account. I'm fine with that. Yeah, like I've heard of that happening, and it's totally justifiable in my opinion. Best Buy is the perfect example here. They have a very unfriendly return policy that is specifically based on how much any person has purchased and returned historically. Apple is free to do the same, but doesn't. Exactly. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that Apple could very easily do the exact same thing. They choose not to, but they could. And the fact that they haven't is evident to me that it does not hurt them very much. Does watching the Tech EV podcast on YouTube benefit you more? Or does listening to audio pay more? Oh, is that Jay? Is Jay Apple support all along? Essentially right now, since we've gotten the tech streams moved to a different channel, it's not on Taylosive Podcasts anymore. This new channel is not monetized right off the bat. We have to wait until it's got 4,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers. So until then, listening to the Twitch streams via podcast audio form, those do have ads, and we do make money from those. So that, for the time being, makes the most. But once the tech Twitch stream podcast, sorry, that's way too complicated a name. Once the Taylosive Tech stream channel on YouTube is monetized, then whether you listen on audio or YouTube doesn't really make a difference. But simultaneously, we need that channel to get to 4,000 hours of watch time. So if you listen to it on YouTube, you're helping me get that channel monetized eventually. But so really it doesn't matter. Listen to whatever's most convenient for you. It doesn't really make a difference. The money it generates is not substantially high. So for me, at the end of the day, I just want you to watch whatever's most convenient for you. If YouTube's more convenient for you, do it on YouTube. Don't worry about which one is going to support me more directly, because the tech stream is not a significant portion of my income. It's a little bit, but it is something. Alex says, we as consumers owe nothing to Apple in terms of treating them nicely. They're out to make as much money as possible from everyone and set the purchase rules they're happy with. It's the consumer's job to get the best deal possible utilizing those rules. The free market and consumer law regulation, etc. Yeah, I agree. It's not like Apple is doing everything in their power to ensure that they never hurt us or they never make us spend more money than we have to. Apple does all kinds of stuff to make us try to spend more money than we think we have to, and try to encourage us and incentivize us. Oh, you want to spend a little more, though. You want to get the nicer one. You want to buy more. That's their whole business model, is trying to get you to buy more than you think you need. That's the whole pricing of iCloud storage. Do you need 2 terabytes? Probably not, but you want likely more than 200 gigs. So we could provide you with a terabyte, but we would rather do 2 terabytes so you buy a little bit more than you think you need. But anyway, guys, there is a Starlink mission right now, so I wanted to watch it with you as it's actually taking place. T-minus 8 seconds. We're streaming via Starlink, and we're watching a Starlink mission right now. How cool is that? But I can still interact with the chat as this is happening. This is hilariously become pretty routine. They do all kinds of these, but this is the first one that's been going on since I've actually been live. So Falcon 9 has taken off. It's got a batch of 60 satellites right now. This will only take about 10 minutes by the time the Falcon 9 lands. So this isn't going to be the rest of the stream, but it is something I enjoy watching if possible. One more thing, Starlink launch. Apple Support says, thank you for the answer, but I was actually in reference to the once a week. Oh, sorry, the Tech EV podcast. I don't think it makes a difference. I'm not sure of the CPM difference. Yeah, SpaceX luckily does not copyright strike people that I know of. I have not seen SpaceX copyright strike anyone, so we are good to show this. But this is happening right now in real time. We're about to hit max Q on the Falcon 9 launch, which is dope. I would love your opinion. I think it would be awesome when you plug iPad Pro into a display, either for the display to both iPad and you just get Mac OS. That'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know how possible it is for them to run iPad OS and Mac OS simultaneously, but I would not be against that, for the record. If when you plugged your iPad into an external monitor, it just turned into Mac OS, that's not a terrible idea. The title of the stream is, Am I a Burden to Apple? But now you're watching a Starlink mission. Well, we kind of answered that, and if you've been watching the Twitch streams for a while, you know that we very rarely stick the entire stream to the title of the... that would get old pretty quickly. I don't think what I'm doing is fraud, though, for the record. iPad Air with OLED in 2022. What do you think? I'm still having a hard time understanding why OLED is going to be substantially better than mini LED. So I don't know. Maybe OLED will allow them to make the iPad thinner, but it's crazy to imagine that what we're watching right now is happening in real time and that they're able to have a consistent broadcast of this mission as it's happening, which is really cool. If Apple did an acquisition of Elon Musk, they'd have an Apple rocket, yeah. OLED has a fair set of drawbacks from mini LED that I'm aware of. So maybe by 2022, they're hoping OLED will be more stable and have less burn-in issues, and that's why they're waiting until then to do OLED on the iPad, but I'm not sure. We are watching a bunch of explosions happening continuously, propelling a tall, building-sized object into a very high altitude. That is correct. And now we're going to watch this building-sized explosion machine land itself on a boat that nobody is steering. How cool is that? We just had second stage separation, which is cool. So now on the right side of the screen, you're seeing a different Merlin engine propel the 60 Starlink satellites into orbit, which these Starlink satellites are going to directly make my live streams more stable. They're going to make my internet service faster, and I get to see it in real time. There they are. There's the inside. The fairing half just detached, so we could see all 60 satellites on the inside. And now the fairing half is falling off in the distance there, and they're going to fish it out of the ocean later. Let's see. Micro LED. Micro LED has been in the theoretical realm for many, many years now, which is why I'm hesitant to believe it's around the corner. I remember talking about micro LED back in... Oh, this is too zoomed in. I just realized. 1 second. Oh, can I adjust this? I'll just make it like that so you can see the whole thing. It's way too cropped in. Pointy end down, flame up. That's right. I can make this theater mode here. That's probably a bit better. Just a wee bit. The first stage is what I'm most interested in. This one on the side here is going to come all the way back down and land on a drone ship, which I think is it's amazing. It is being steered just by a computer that tells... I didn't say it's not being steered. I said it's not being steered by anybody. It is a robot. It's not a person. Robots aren't people. Vision isn't real, Mike. What is beef if not cow persevering? This has become such a common thing that it's not terribly interesting to people anymore, but I still love watching it whenever I can. Did I see Mark Gurman's latest tweet? I don't know. You can fill me in on what it is, but I don't see... The definition of fraud is not, in my opinion, what buying a product and returning it is. Let me scroll up. Can Starlink drop food on Africa? No, I don't think it's that simple. He was real to me. Wow, already dropping the spoilers. It's coming back. Don't crash, Falcon 9. Please don't land on anything except the drone ship. Marvel, wait, that's illegal. Oh, Fortnite for Mac was previewed by Epic at an Apple keynote 3 weeks before this email change. Y'all should think about separating iOS App Store curation from compliance review and app distribution. The App Store has done much good for the industry, but it doesn't seem tenable for Apple to be the sole arbitrator for expression and commerce. Oh. I mean, I haven't been following the court case very closely. All I know is that Epic is being probably unreasonable and hypocritical. I think they just know that the Apple hate in the press is strong, and they're just banking off that, even though Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox pretty much do the exact same thing Apple does. 50 bits from Ben Fiend says, my prediction is at Quadruple UDC, the Mac App Store will come to the 2021 iPad Pro. That seems like the only way they can make exclusive apps for the new iPads. I don't think they can just make apps for the current App Store just for their apps without just including them as pre-installed apps. I don't remember any time when Apple made apps on the App Store just for one model besides the Oxygen app on Series 6. Yeah, that could be the way it goes. I'm not sure. I feel like Apple is probably hesitant to... There's the entry burn. I think Apple is hesitant to allow apps on the iPad that won't work with touch. And that's the thing. All the apps on the Mac App Store aren't really going to be optimized for touch. So if they bring the entire Mac App Store onto the iPad Pros, they're going to start requiring like keyboard and trackpad has to be attached now. I'm not against that, for the record. If they wanted to let you boot Mac OS onto your iPad and just deactivate the touchscreen, I'd be fine with it. Or let you run Mac apps on the iPad with M1. I'd also be fine with that. But I just don't think they'll do it. Most Mac apps aren't from the App Store, though. I know, but the ones people care about are on the App Store. Main things people want on the iPad are Final Cut, Logic, and Xcode and Terminal, basically. Do you think Apple will win? I do. I don't think Epic has much of a case. Epic might have had a stronger case if they would have just gone to court suggesting that Apple change their policies. It's more the methodology Epic is using that I didn't think was very reasonable or made much sense. The fact that Epic knowingly and directly broke App Store guidelines to me that completely justifies Apple banning them from the App Store and not letting them come back. If you knowingly, like, Epic had a whole marketing campaign planned for after they got banned. Like, it was very intentional for them to break terms and conditions, and that's a contract that developers have to abide by to get their apps on the store. So if you want to make the argument, oop, there's the ship. Ooh, I think they're a little off course. Are they gonna tilt in? We got a Starlink connection on the right-hand side here. Here we go. Ooh, it's gonna be close. Oh, I think it made it. Oh, wow. It looked dead center. Those things are not in sync. The connection will stabilize in a minute here. Hey, it made it. It stuck the landing. Wow, dead center, even on the inside yellow circle. Mike thinking it's a bit off track. Pfft. Mike, what are you talking about? Look at that. It could not be more dead center. It's literally inside the yellow ring, inside the white ring. They stuck the landing flawlessly. I've noticed that, actually. I've been watching as many Starlink launches as possible and as many Falcon 9 landings that have taken place. Pretty much all of them, it looks like it's not going to hit the ship. It looks way off, and then at the last minute, it kind of comes in at an angle and sticks the landing. Anyway, that's just, to me, one of the most impressive, innovative pieces of technology that we have in today's world. Who cares about notches and bezels? A freaking building-sized rocket just came in on its tail and stuck the landing on a little drone ship. No, the tilt, it's all planned. Who cares about the tilt of the altitude? It's fine. It could not land more perfectly. Let's see. Absolutely amazing technology. I love watching that in real time. And it's gotten really accurate, too. It's gotten very reliable over time. I just bought my second OG HomePod. No hate, please. Honestly, though, the Apple TV 3rd Gen from 2012 is still supported, so I can imagine HomePod being similar. That's true. I guess there's not software for them to update, so hopefully it keeps sticking around. But what were you talking about? Oh, yeah, Epic. The whole Epic versus Apple argument is so old now. Like, I feel like it was a year ago that they originally started going up against each other, but there's so much hypocrisy on Epic's side to me, because Epic allows so many things that they're complaining that Apple does. Like, the most popular app stores for game libraries do the exact same thing. Apple didn't pull 30% revenue cut out from nowhere. That was an industry standard. When they launched the App Store, everyone else was doing 30% revenue cut. You know, Xbox was doing that. Microsoft was doing it. PlayStation's doing it. Nintendo's doing it. Everybody was doing that except Epic with their store, which provided better tax breaks if you used their game engine. If you didn't use their game engine, they were charging 30%. And Apple is now adapting App Store policy so that if you're a younger developer and you're making less than $1 million a year, it's only 15, which I think is very reasonable and very fair. And if Apple is up for making, if Apple's up for making it lower, that's their choice. It's fine to do that. I'm not saying it has to be 30%. I'm just saying it shouldn't. Epic coming in to the situation and saying we're going to knowingly and intentionally break App Store terms and conditions that we signed and agreed. That's a breach of contract. And then launch this huge marketing campaign to get all of our audience and get all of our fans really, really annoyed at Apple, so that hopefully Apple will get all of this bad press and bad publicity and therefore want to change their terms and conditions so that we get more money. To me, it's the tactic that makes less sense to me. If you just want to argue that 30% is too much and it's too greedy, that's a different discussion. Okay. I would argue that's kind of an industry standard, and it doesn't appear that there's a lot of successful game stores or a lot of different app platforms that are doing it with less and seeing tremendous success. If they were, I would also argue that's a different discussion. If Google wasn't charging 30% and they were having tremendously more revenue generated, okay, you could maybe make the argument that Apple is charging too much and they would be more successful if they charge less. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is Apple is charging 30% for companies that make over $1 million a year, and Apple has generated more App Store revenue than any other app store. They have developed a secure private and encrypted way of customers to do business with app developers and with iPhones and with Apple products, people feel very comfortable spending money there. Whereas on other platforms, people are less comfortable because they're worried about malware. They're worrying about getting scammed. That's why even though the Play Store in Google is so much substantially larger, the user base is, I think, like 2 or 3 times bigger than iOS, it accounts for less of the overall money spent on apps in the world. More people spend money on the iOS App Store than the Google Play Store because they feel more private and it feels more secure and they feel more like it's more reliable and stable. So the fact that there's not any direct proof, in my opinion, of a other platform that charges less than 30% that is also really successful, I don't understand why Epic thinks that everybody needs to be like them, and they're not very successful. And on top of that, intentionally breaking terms and conditions so that you can launch a marketing campaign, to me, is why this is a drop in the bucket. They need to throw this case out. It's stupid. It's like, you broke terms and conditions. You agreed to them, and then you broke them. So no, you're not going to stay on the... That's absurd. Why would we keep you on the App Store if you're knowingly and intentionally breaking terms and conditions? That's not okay at all. And it sends a very dangerous double standard. If Epic thinks they should be allowed back on the store after breaking terms and conditions, they're saying that anybody should be able to essentially break terms and conditions that the App Store sets out and then find a way to come back. Like, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that should be the way it works. If Apple decided, just because they can afford it and because they're such a rich company, you're like, you know what, everybody now has 10% revenue cut instead of 30. That's their choice. If they want to do it, okay, great. Thanks, Apple. But if they don't want to do it, I also respect that as their choice. It's their platform. They built this market. They built this community. And if people are buying their hardware and comfortably spending money on the App Store, and you're trying to capitalize off of Apple's platform that they've built, and you're trying to capitalize off of that success, then yeah, you pay a fee. That's what happens in grocery stores that want to sell other companies' hardware, not hardware, like food. And yes, the in-house accessories are sold alongside the competitors. That happens. Like, I just think about it whenever I go to a grocery store. Like Winco is a good example. Like Winco sells all kinds of third-party chips and peanuts and all the grocery items you can imagine, but they also have their own in-house name brands that are usually much cheaper because they don't have the revenue cut to worry about. That's how it works. It's worked that way for many, many years. Suddenly Epic is deciding that they should be treated differently, I guess. And they're very, very mad at Apple, despite every other company basically doing the same thing. Let's see. A few other people. Google also charged 30%, but I haven't heard anything on the Epic versus Google case. Yeah, I haven't either. They're just very mad at Apple. I think the reason Epic is making an argument here is because they realized that 30% is standard, but they saw an opportunity with all the antitrust hearings Apple was having and sought to make a change in the industry. After all, if they can change Apple's position on 30%, they can definitely make some sort of change in other departments as well as other industries will most likely follow. I am almost certain that's part of it. They see that, but that's what I mean though. They see that Apple is already hated in the press and is already being accused of, monopoly practices, which I don't think is accurate, to be honest with you. But they're banking on that. They're like, okay, a lot of people hate Apple, so we should probably jump on the bandwagon while we're at it. But I just think the way they're going about it is stupid. Like, I don't think it makes sense. And I don't think they're going to win in the court case. From what I've been reading so far, they're not doing too well based on what the Apple's lawyers are saying and the statements they have from Epic. It doesn't seem like the judge is favoring in their direction. If you don't like the terms of service of the launcher, make your own, which is probably the main reason of the situation since they already have a launcher on PC. Yeah, and they probably make the argument that making your own phone and making your own successful platform is not that easy, but that's why I feel like 30% is fair. So Epic, you agree that developing your own smartphone, making your own hardware, making your own app store, and making your own operating system and competing with the iPhone is near impossible and basically unrealistic. So the fact that Apple was able to do that, and they were able to front all of this money and do all this risk to develop their own platform, to develop their own hardware, and sustain that and compete with everybody else in the world in different markets and different companies, and create a platform that is successful, you agree that that is not easily obtainable. You can't do that. You don't know how to do that, and not anybody can do that. So you agree that that is valuable. In my opinion, because it's so valuable and difficult to do and not an easy thing to roll out, that's why there is a fee. That's why they get the revenue from sales. That's why they get some of that credit, is because it's not something anybody can do. So developing a successful platform, and it's not just with hardware, it's with social media too. It's very difficult to just come up with a successful social media platform, even if you have a ton of money. Even if you're a very successful company, you know, that's why Google couldn't make Google Plus working. They had tons of money. It's very difficult to develop a platform like that, and that's why there's going to be a revenue cut, is because not anybody can do it. So you get rewarded if you're one of the few people that can make it work. And the people that, I don't know, to me it felt weird because Epic was trying to advertise like their App Store policies had changed or something. Epic was going to all their customers and all their viewers like, Apple took Fortnite off the App Store. They did this to you. They took away your favorite game. I'm like, the App Store policies didn't change. None of the guidelines changed. You decided that you wanted more money than you were getting all of a sudden. So don't act like Apple is the one that took your game off the store. You knowingly broke the terms and conditions. Like, to me, Epic took away a game. They took away a service from their own fan base because they felt like Apple was getting too much money from their fan base. They were still making billions. They just decided billions weren't enough. So let's go to war with Apple over it, even though the 30% cut is the same across all these different platforms. It's not a good way to go about it. If you want to advocate for a lower revenue cut, and you have evidence to back up as to why 30% is too much and it should be less, that's a different discussion. But that's not what they're doing. Well, that's part of what they're doing. But anyway, sorry for the Starlink lag. I see it. Hopefully the satellites are going to get deployed soon and the connection will get more stable. There we go. Neam Regan, nice to see you again. Donated 100 bits. He says he finally got 5G. Oh, the vaccine. Arm is a bit sore, but other than that, I'm feeling great, ready for the borders to open back up so I can start traveling again. I'm going crazy. I'm not used to being in one place for so long. It's why I like iPhones, because I can take great video and photo of all my journeys. Yeah, I like iPhones for that too. I had a pretty great adventure yesterday. I'll post it in a vlog later today. Starlink moment. Epic could actually lose way more money than 30% in lost revenue from getting off the App Store due to lawsuits. I agree. That's why I don't think this was a good idea. If I was in charge of Epic, very different world, but if I was in charge of Epic and I was running a business like that, and everybody in the industry was charging 30% cut, and we decided, we're making billions and billions of dollars, but we have now decided that that's not enough and we would like more money now. Let's go after Apple, because everyone seems to hate Apple and there's a lot of antitrust cases against them currently. So we'll jump on the bandwagon so that the courts will be more in our favor. And by doing that, let's knowingly and intentionally develop a marketing campaign as to why we're going to get banned, and then intentionally get banned by breaking the terms and conditions. It's not like they necessarily did a protest where they just took the game off. They could have done that, for the record. It would have been very simple and very easy for them to just say, you know what? We think 30% is too much. Let's take our game off the App Store. And say, we're not going to put Fortnite back on the App Store until the cut is lowered beneath 30%. There's a very specific reason they didn't do that, though, is because then it would look like they're the bad guys. Either way, I think they're kind of the bad guy. But either way, They didn't want to be seen as the company that's protesting. They didn't want to have to go to their customers and their viewers and say, hey, everyone, we know you like our game, but we want more money, so we're going to take it off the App Store until Apple changes its policies. That would send the wrong message. So what do instead? They intentionally break terms and conditions in a way that they're like, we don't think this should be breaking terms and conditions. But it doesn't matter what you think it should be. The fact is they did it. They still intentionally knew the risks and violated the terms of service and said, okay, let's intentionally break terms of service. That way Apple bans us and we get to say, see, look what Apple's doing to us. They kicked us off. Aren't they bad? Aren't they evil? They made us come off the App Store. They took away your game. That's what they wanted the narrative to be, even though that's not the situation at all, because again, App Store guidelines, App Store terms of service did not change. Epic changed, and they broke intentionally, which is like, yeah, if you break TOS, I think you should be permabanned. Especially if you did it knowingly and then have this huge marketing campaign after the fact. I mean, I'm not in charge. Apple can do what they want. If Apple and Epic come to an agreement to bring the game back because Apple's like, hey, I mean, we get a pretty decent cut of Fortnite. We would like that revenue. Sure, let's get Fortnite back on the App Store. If they come to that agreement, good for them. But if it was my decision, if I saw a brand like that, like Epic intentionally breaking TOS and making me look like the bad guy for enforcing the terms of service, I'd be like, no, you can't come back. You're gone for good. I'd be like, I don't care if you change the game back to the way it was before. I don't care if you make it abide by terms of service all of a sudden, which is, I'm guessing, what they're going to try to do. My prediction is Epic is going to lose this court case, realize that they're not going to be able to get the revenue cut reduced because everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, this doesn't really make sense. This is an industry standard, and we've clearly been able to make a successful market of games, and whole businesses have been built out of just making apps for the App Store, and they can all develop and they can all work with the 30% cut. We've had it for over 10 years now, and clearly it's worked. We have a huge market around this. It's not like the App Store is dying and suffering because of the 30% cut. It's doing great. People are spending all kinds of money, and there's all kinds of titles and productivity apps that are still around and still succeeding. So it doesn't really hold much weight. And I think that once Epic loses, they're going to try to get back on the App Store because they realize that dealing with 30% cut is better than no cut, like not having the game on the App Store at all, which is what I think the end result is. And if that ends up being the situation, then yeah, I would be the type of company that's like, no, you intentionally attacked us and you intentionally tried to break terms of service. So we're not going to allow that, and we want to send a message to all other app developers or all other companies out there that if you try to intentionally break TOS and make us out to be the bad guy to your viewers and your customers, then we don't want you on our store. Like, we're not okay with that. Granted, I'm not in charge, so that's probably not how it's going to work, but I could totally understand that viewpoint. If Apple didn't want them to come back at all, I'd be fine with that. Anyway. Yeah, don't get your feelings involved. Money is the only reason Apple would consider bringing Fortnite back. I'm sure money would be the driving force, but I don't know. I think they can afford to lose them. 100 bits. Let's be real. The terms of service isn't fairly applied, and that's why I question why foreign companies are so dumb, like Tencent and Spotify could just work with Apple like Amazon and Prime Video did. I feel like there's always a deal to be struck between two corporations, but they got to be so greedy for some odd reason, like their shareholders not making enough money or something. Yeah, shareholders basically are, trying to drive the stock up, so they need the company to always be in a growth phase, which is why they always are trying to get more money than they are. I mean, I agree that terms of service have probably not always been treated fairly, but I don't think that means we should be okay with everybody breaking them intentionally. That isn't, to me, justified. It's like, well, if they're not enforcing terms of service fairly, then why we have terms of service at all? Let's just throw it all out the window. Like, that's not the solution. Is they should be enforcing terms of service more fairly. And I know Apple's not been perfect about that, but I want them to be better about it, not just give up on terms of service entirely. Well, if they didn't do it fairly with Prime Video, let's just let Epic get away with it too, because if you let Epic get away with it, then other apps are going to start building in more malware and scam material with no enforcement. Spotify still makes a loss, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know much about if Spotify is profitable or not, but I do know that Spotify doesn't pay artists as much as Apple Music. So if you want to make the argument that Apple Music is uncompetitive, you're also bumping up against the idea that artists should be paid less. So it's kind of a messy situation. It's like, Apple Music's being unfair towards Spotify. I think they had a better case, to be completely honest with you. Spotify went about complaining about Apple's App Store practices much better than Epic. I think they brought up worthy points. Like Spotify was not allowed to advertise sales they had going on, which I thought was weird in the App Store. If they had like a discount or something, Apple wouldn't let them share that, or like letting you set a default music player within iOS that's outside of Apple. Like, I can't remember all of them, but Spotify had a video that explained all the things that Apple wasn't letting them do, and I thought it was pretty fair. I was like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. Like, if someone wants to use Spotify, come on, they should be able to. Is this one of those cases that take years and years to get resolved? Probably. I'm guessing it will be. I'm not a burden. That was what the first half of the show was about. But basically, there were people saying that I'm a burden to Apple because I buy and return products that I review. And basically, the first 30 minutes of the show was me talking about why I don't think I'm a burden and why I've probably made Apple much, much more money. And if they asked me to stop buying things and returning them, I would honor their wishes. So as long as they, Best Buy will blacklist you if you return too many things. Apple could easily do that. They choose not to. I'm guessing it's because they would rather have that user trust, and they don't lose that much money on the return policy anyway. So that's why they're comfortable letting people return stuff. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I think Spotify didn't like that they couldn't use their own payment subscription system. I can somewhat understand that, but I also understand Apple's perspective because it's a slippery slope. It's not so much an isolated instance. It's not like allowing Spotify to let people sign up for the app directly within the app would be the worst thing in the world. It's that, what does that allow other third-party applications to do? If you make an exception for Spotify, then you got to make an exception for some other app, and then before you know it, everybody's bypassing all these App Store payment laws. I wish I could make YouTube Music my default music player. I know I could too. They've made some progress too. There were some default app changes they made in the last iOS thing. Now it sounds like because of the antitrust cases, they might force people to be able to change their music players to other ones. It can be limited. It can be more verified ones, not like any app on the planet, but like make sure that the ones that are verified are following certain guidelines. That's fine. Tailosive Law, the next channel. Anyway, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the new Tailosive Tech Streams channel yet on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it because that channel is going to have all these Twitch streams after they're live, but it's not going to make any money for quite some time. So the sooner we can get that channel monetized, the better. It helps me out a lot. But either way, not a big deal. I'll be fine either way. I appreciate you guys for your bits and your Twitch Prime. Someone subscribed yesterday who at TVTube subbed with Twitch Prime for 31 months. Wow, as of 2 days ago. So I appreciate that. Lord Tennis 2 as well. They weren't here during the stream, I don't think, but either way, if you ever listen to this, I appreciate you guys. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.